are back. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Report. And we are back. We got the full crew in the house. That is what it's all about. The Yankees, out of any team in the league, are the best equipped to handle a blow like this.
I think there is a higher power at play here. He's due law of averages. That dude is the ultimate scrub. Every person who had was fucking trash.
Next game, you're going to see a big performance. You can see it in the end of the game, and I'm just totally stoked excited for this.
And we are back. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Port. And once again, it is the Barnes and Tony Show. Anthony, how are you, my friends?
It is a gloomy, doomy Monday over here at the producer's chair. We also have Mike on the couch, by the way, guys.
I was
No,
introduce our
no,
friends
you
on the
were
couch.
not, dude. You were
Renee
totally
and Michael.
overlooking.
No, because officially it is the Barnes and Tony Show, but we are joined on the couch by Renee and Michael.
Wow, how do you guys feel about that?
Isn't that how is the perfect way to say it? Michael just give me the thumbs up over there.
I would feel slighted.
No. I looking at the two of them. They are ready for fall. They're ready for the Sports Port, and they're ready to talk about the weekend that was, Tony. So much to start with, and I am very surprised right now. Looking in the comment box, I do not see anything from the one, the only Buffer. Where are you, bud?
I will give it to him. Probably rough Monday morning for him. But also, when you think about it, we're a little early too for him as well. So maybe
I swear
give him
though,
a few, dude. 9:15.
But we've started at 7 and Buffer's ready. So
I know it's crazy.
I could see maybe hit the gentleman jack a little hard late last night. We obviously have to talk about that, but we'll give you a second there, and let's start in the world of the National Football League.
6 for 101, 2 touchdowns. To Evans, touchdown, Tampa Bay. How about that throw? Sam Darnold blasted. Oh my goodness, did he take a hit? In trouble once, brings him down. Lost one for Odell Beckham Jr. Got it down, touchdown.
All right. You've joined me in unison there, Tony. I really like you picking up on that. There are so many places to go, and chronologically, we would start with the London game, but I mean the New York Jets, Tony, 2-2 after their second win in 50 years in Pittsburgh yesterday. 24-20, winning in Zach Wilson's return, down 10 in the fourth quarter. I mean, is the apocalypse coming? The New York Jets' second victory of the season where they come back in the fourth quarter, down multiple possessions.
Crazy.
I mean, a new era starting in Florham Park. I mean, what do you think here?
I think it's very possible. I mean, just looking at this game, Zach Wilson, he played a good game. A lot of young receivers, I think, were things to kind of highlight. I would say, their defense did pretty well. Obviously, the Steelers down, TJ Watt on defense, is, like we mentioned, is definitely a punch to the gut for them. But they had this guy, Highland High. For some reason, I keep thinking Hightower. He was a defensive line
for the
Steelers.
I don't know.
High something.
I don't know why
Highland?
I don't see it. Oh, Highsmith. Alex Highsmith.
He basically just stopped the Jets running game. I mean, for most of the game, they had basically, no ground game at all. You saw maybe a couple plays to the outside where they gained, some yards. But other than that, everything was through the air for the most part. Zach Wilson was pretty decent. There was a few times where his offensive line failed him, but nonetheless, maybe a few times too where he was not getting rid of the ball in the pocket, trying to force something. We saw that a few times, but nonetheless, I mean, nothing horrible, I guess, really came of it. And like you mentioned, to come back in the fourth quarter here, I was talking a little bit about before the show, the Steelers kind of came back in the second half for them was pretty strong to start off with.
Greg Gumbel was excited about
it. Dude. And they even put, what's his face in a QB?
Kenny Pickett, your guy, Michael's guy.
Dude.
And he had 2 rushing touchdowns, but just couldn't get anything going through the air. I mean, but his 3 incompletions were 3 interceptions, and obviously one being at the end of the game on a Hail Mary. I mean, I really was impressed. And I know the stat line at the end of the day, doesn't look, pretty for Zach Wilson. But the fact that you're able to just put that drive together, score 2 fourth quarter touchdowns, I mean, you really can't underestimate that. And just to kind of give you a general scoring summary. So we had a couple punts to start out the game, and then the Jets do get a Greg Zerloin 38-yard field goal off a turnover, 7 plays, 16 yards. So that made it 3-0. But then Zach Wilson becomes the first Jet quarterback in franchise history to catch a touchdown pass.
That wasn't franchise. I heard that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that can't be right.
I mean, I can't believe Vinny T never split out wide, though.
Right?
Great. Even Chad, too. You would have thought, run him out.
Chad
run him out
Pennington,
there.
dude.
Or even Darnold. Even if he was Favre. Yeah. If he came over a little earlier in his career. Do you think he's going to the pinner?
He's going to jail, bro.
How many years do you think?
Fucking 10 plus.
Do you think it's kind of karma after the whole massage table?
Oh, yeah.
Tony, Favre to the pinner or no?
Yeah, you gotta be, dude. You can't be embezzling money.
Yeah.
Something, whatever, do like that. Speaking of which, though, a couple comments.
Oh, we do have
dude.
a couple comments. Okay.
At 9:15, like he heard me say it. He says, "Hey guys, prefer 6-2."
Prefer hitting the hashish a little bit. Prefer how much hashish, how much Gentleman Jack after last night. I'm very curious to hear from you.
And then we also have Jay Bird. He says O-line started to click on the final drive though, and he says, "Yeah, what about Sanchez?
Yeah,
Running
I can't
TD?
believe
Catch?
No,
Pass?
no. So I mean, it's crazy that the history. You think about the second one in Pittsburgh,
Zach
50 years,
Wilson?
first quarterback to catch a touchdown pass. That was in the second quarter.
Zach Wilson?
And really, everything was going their way. I mean, they let up a 51-yard field goal to Boswell to make it 10-3.
And that was bogus too. It was off of like a late hit on Trubisky, right?
Yeah, the late hit.
Which, by the way, like Jay and I were watching, it was basically a bang bang play.
Yeah.
Like he threw the ball and then the dude came and tackled him. I mean, I think that was kind of a weak call.
Yeah.
But also, it's tough to give up 3 points before the half of that.
Well, no, that was the first field goal, but the second field goal too was because of it's a Zach Wilson interception. The Jets were driving,
that's right.
Could have scored again, and then Boswell 59 yards. I didn't think he had that type of leg, especially Heinz Field's a tough place to kick. So that made it 10-6 Jets.
Longest
going into
field
the
goal
half.
at the field, I believe.
I believe so.
Before that was 56, I think.
And you go back maybe 10 years, there hadn't even been a 50-yard field goal ever made at Heinz Field. The wind's always churning there.
Right.
So that's impressive stuff out of him. You look at the third quarter, the Steelers take the lead on a Kenny Pickett touchdown run and make it 13-10, and then actually get up 2 scores early on in the fourth on another 2-yard run from Kenny Pickett. So him getting the job done in the red zone, running the ball on a 12-play, 82-yard drive. So 20-10. So, the announcers, you mentioned Gumbel, all excited for the Steelers. But the Jets, 2 touchdowns to close out this game and win it. The first one on an 11-play, 81-yard drive, 5 yards out to Corey Davis. So that made it 20-17 Steelers. Jets get the ball back. A 10-play, 65-yard drive, running the ball late, on the clock, only 16 seconds left. Breece Hall from 2 yards out fumbled. They reviewed it, and he did cross the plane before the fumble. So 24-10, 24-20 Jets, and then the Steelers, try to drive a little bit, but Kenny Pickett, third interception to seal it for the Jets, 24-20. So, like I said, I mean, they're definitely, it wasn't the prettiest game, but the fact that you're able to win 2 out of your first 4 games when you had to play the entire AFC North division, you potentially, I mean, we'll see what happens, but a lot of, turmoil there in Miami with Tua. So you'd expect him to sit out, just because of all the controversy. Who knows? But that's who you got next week. So you have a chance to win 3 out of your first 5 games, which no one would have saw coming in a million years. So after the infamous receipt comment from Robert Saleh, the Jets have went 2-1 since then. So all in all, I mean, it's all about wins and losses. And I think the thing, and I mentioned this to Michael before the show, that everybody wants to see next game is, obviously first game back for Zach and coming off the injury. We want to see that big, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. And possibly limit the turnovers. But I am very pleased with what I've seen up to this point for the Jets. And it's just I don't remember the last time they were in contention 4 games into the season. Literally, they're usually 0-4, 1-3, 0-4. Probably the Ryan Fitzpatrick team was the last team to have a chance like that. So positive vibes coming out of the New York Jets. I mean, what's your takeaway, Tony? I mean, you expect like my next week, let's say Bridgewater starts hypothetically. Do you give him a shot there, or is it that is going to be a pretty tall task in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, they have a shot, especially if Bridgewater starts for sure. I mean, I would imagine he is too. So I would say Jets have a good shot. I mean, they have to, try to limit turnovers, and Zach Wilson, a big part of them winning the game is going to be, him feeling more comfortable. Because he didn't look totally like in sync, comfortable. We have a couple comments as well. Jay Bird says, yes, Barnes, with the exclamation point. And Matt Gabriel checking in here. Great W for the Jets. Pumped about Wilson. Thought he looked pretty good for his first time this year, and just pumped all around. Fellas, love Breece Hall. And 2-2 through the first quarter of the season. We'll take it. Solid start.
Are you? It's getting a feed on your screen.
Yeah. Are you not?
I'm showing stream unavailable, suspended for policy violations.
Oh no, dude. You think so? I mean,
I'm on YouTube. You're on StreamYard probably.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, I mean, nothing.
Did you have highlights on or no?
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if
no audio though. You think they've caught up?
I guess. I mean, I'll try to refresh this, but it's like,
yeah, it's not up.
What's not up?
On YouTube right now. We should be good for everything else though.
Oh my God, YouTube.
I know.
Well,
oh wait, no, it's back
we're
up on
back.
YouTube.
We're back. Okay, so I guess they want us to chill with the highlights.
I guess they want us to chill with the highlights. I think. Yeah.
I mean, did the highlights ever hurt anybody, Tony?
If anything, highlights improve everyone's feelings. Speaking of getting kind of ticked off, Jay Bird, also, the announcers were after the Jets. So negative, basically sucking the Steelers off, he says.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at, what did that get them? A 1-3 start. And I mean, I'm sure, there's definitely some more hope here with Kenny Pickett at the helm. I know he threw 3 picks, but I think that's the move. Trubisky can only get you so far. So be interesting to see. I mean, they haven't had a losing season since Mike Tomlin, took the reins there in 2007 after the Bill Cowher retirement.
Crazy.
So it'll be interesting to see if they can rally. Time will tell. I'm just excited to see the Jets though, man. What are they going to do next week? We got some time, but we'll see. And how about the New York Giants? And I know, a weak Chicago Bears team, but 3-1 is 3-1. I have to give them credit where credit's due. Dealing with some injuries, you had the Tyrod Taylor concussion after coming in for Daniel Jones, who's looking like he's dealing with an ankle injury. But they win 20-12. And Saquon Barkley, man, I did not see this coming. 31 carries, 146 yards. So the Giants win this game 20-12, despite passing for 71 yards and throwing 1 interception. But if Saquon is going to run like this, I mean, you would say, they have a shot. Obviously, though, the key for the Giants, I think, moving forward is going to be, what do they do, against the steeper competition? And we'll see that actually next week in London against the Packers. So they got Packers, Ravens, Jags. So definitely a step up in competition after getting 3 wins against the Titans, Panthers, and Bears, falling to the Cowboys last week. How do you feel about this, Tony? I mean, I would say, that I think, winning, throwing for 71 yards isn't sustainable. But
no,
if you could really just run the ball this effectively, I mean, I think you have a chance to be a 500 team, no?
Yeah, no, I think so, totally. And even Daniel Jones, I know he injured his ankle, right, yesterday?
Yes.
But he was running really well, too. I mean,
two rushing touchdowns, 68 yards on the ground.
And it's so funny because you watch this man run, and he doesn't really look any bit athletic.
No.
But nonetheless, I mean, he continues to have, like these big, significant runs during the game. And, I mean, I feel like at this point, you can't really trust your receivers.
Hey, what receivers?
That's what I mean.
I mean, the leading receiver was Daniel Bellinger, 3 receptions, 23 yards.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like what exactly? So all you have is a run game, and if it does, obviously, if it works, it works, for sure. But I think right now, I'm sure Jones is gonna be playing next week. I don't think the ankle injury was anything crazy. But then you had Tyrod Taylor, right? A concussion.
Yeah. You had Saquon doing some. It says the Giants are optimistic that Jones will be able to suit up week 5.
Yeah, he should be.
Against the Packers, but You would think that's going to be a tough matchup, but then again, I mean, are the Giants? You would think that they're better than the New England Patriots, who almost knocked off the Green Bay Packers yesterday, and what would have been the shock of the day. And this was, they were playing this game with not their backup quarterback Brian Hoyer, who left with an injury, but third string rookie Bailey Zappi, who did throw for 62 touchdowns last year in college for Western Kentucky. He goes 10 of 15, 99 yards and a touchdown. But this game, I mean, New England really, kind of dominated this game up until the final field goal by Mason Crosby. I mean, I was shocked that the Packers didn't just completely blow out the Patriots, but I think that shows, and I hate giving him credit, of course, but just to the somewhat genius Bill Belichick in terms of defense, I think, he really gave, Rodgers some trouble. And I know he's still getting comfortable with his new receivers. But you look at this, Nick Folk, first quarter makes a 37-yard field goal, 3-0 Pats. The Packers answer back in the second on a 15-yard run by Christian Watson to make it 7-3. But late in the second quarter, Packers driving, Jack Jones, 40-yard pick six for the Patriots. So 10-7 New England going into the half. And then you'd say, okay, I know they had some struggles. Second half, Packers will really turn it up. And, the answer in the third quarter with a Robert Tonyan, their first possession of the second half, 20-yard touchdown pass from Rodgers. So that made it 14-10. But then Bailey Zappi, 25-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Parker, making it 17-14 New England. Mason Crosby right before the end of the third with a 38-yard field goal to tie it at 17. But the Patriots once again answering back. Damian Harris, 5-yard touchdown run, 24-17 in favor of the Patriots. But the Packers do answer back on a 13-yard pass to Dobbs from Rodgers to make it tied at 24. And the Packers, unfortunately, at the end of the game, it seemed like they had a touchdown actually to Dobbs. Me and you were talking about this, Tony, the whole going to the ground scenario. And I just think that it's time to change that rule. I mean, it was literally, he catches the ball, his knees down, he has the ball clearly, and then it's just like, just because a half second later it moves a little bit, that means it's not a catch. I mean, I think that is the most ridiculous rule that I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a great, I don't know. I think it's going to be kind of like a big gray area here for that rule. I mean, think about it, like, yeah, he caught the ball, his knee was down, but I mean, once he hit when his body hit the ground, like that ball came out, So I mean, like, what's the rule change? It's like if you have two hands on it and your knees on the ground,
but like you shouldn't need to make a football move because you know why it's contradictory, because when you're going, when you're catching the ball and then running into the end zone, as soon as the ball breaks the plane, it's a touchdown. So why is it not as soon as your feet are down? You have the ball in your hands. How is the play not over? Why does the play need to continue? I just don't understand the thought
I guess
process.
Think about it from a defensive standpoint. I mean, you can't. Then there's really not much defending. I mean, you think about it. If he catches the ball, his feet are in.
Well, yeah,
swat the ball.
but he catches the ball. You know what I mean? It's like it's different if he's on the 50-yard line. Right. And he's got to keep running, but it's called the end zone for a reason.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like that it would. I don't know. I feel like it makes for less exciting football at that point because it's like that's too easy to score at that. Like, I don't know. I feel like it just wouldn't make any sense. Like, what happens if he caught the ball, his feet were in for a hot second, but it gets popped and the ball goes out? It's a touchdown.
I mean, he caught it. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know, man.
It's just interesting. And if anybody would like to comment on that, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. But that's just what I think. I mean, and it really could have cost the Packers a win here and would have given some life to New England. But there was, 2 punts to start overtime, and the Packers go on an extended 12-play, 77-yard drive, ended by a Mason Crosby field goal from 31 yards out, which if he didn't make, we would have had a tie here because they drained the clock. But the Packers win 27-24. We mentioned the matchup next week against the New York Giants. So, I mean, do you think that, given the kind of tough start in terms of, the difficulty scoring for the Packers, that there's some reason for some concern here? Or do you feel like it's Rodgers, everything is just fine?
I don't know. I mean, watching this game for the first half, I was like, wow, like Packers only scored 7 points. Like, and then last week, they beat the Buccaneers like what was it,
14-12. Brady doesn't get
Yeah.
the 2 points.
Yeah. So, both obviously a low scoring game for the Packers as well. But and then to start off this game with only scoring 1 touchdown in the first half, I was a little worried. But I mean, he kind of picked it up in the second half. I think they had a lot of momentum in their favor, which I think they would kind of bring that to the Giants next week. So I don't think it's that much of a concern. However, Rodgers does seem kind of pissed off.
He said it's not sustainable. We can't win this way.
Yeah. So, and you can see like his attitude in the field. I think a couple plays, like even running play, he's just like you see his like body language on the field, and it's just like fuck, like these guys suck. Like what are these guys
especially
doing,
that touchdown at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta just hang in there.
Come on, dude. Yeah. So I don't know. I think his bad attitude. I mean, hopefully, if he had a good attitude, which I feel like he doesn't, I think they'd be fine. But I mean,
but the
poor
thing is,
attitude
though,
by him
it's
is
just
not good, dude.
Watson, the rookie receiver, and Dobbs. I think eventually they could be good, but there's going to be some growing pains there.
Right.
Randall Cobb, I think, is past his prime. As far as tight end, I think Robert Tonyan is fine. And then Jones can catch the ball out of the backfield, as can AJ Dillon. So I think there's talent there, but I think, and I'm kind of curious what you think, that they should go after Odell Beckham. I think his return is coming, at least for the second half of this season. I mean, why not just give Rodgers a big play receiver, someone to somewhat fill the void for Devontae Adams? Because there were so many times where you felt like, boy, if they had Adams, I mean, all of this would be so much easier. And they made it seem like it wasn't a big deal that they lost him. But I think it is a big deal because it's just like that connection was automatic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, when you think about it, if Odell comes to the Packers, obviously, his talent kind of speaks for himself here. But when you think about how, other teams are going to try and defend him, I mean, sometimes, those younger receivers you have might be open. It might be easier for them to kind of get a better feel for the game and for them to kind of mature into better receivers as well. It probably could just help the offense overall. So, yeah, definitely go for Odell, dude.
So it'll be interesting to see. He's had some tweets, so it seems like a signing is around the corner. I know he's always loved being a Ram, Los Angeles, all that, of course,
winning the
Super Bowl last year. But then there's been some rumors about the Giants. But I just think Brian Daboll doesn't want to deal with his attitude.
I wouldn't want to deal with that attitude either, to be honest.
So I kind of think it's going to be Rams or Green Bay, but of course we'll see. How about, though, the first game of yesterday, the Minnesota Vikings 28-25 over the New Orleans Saints. So Minnesota, first-year coach Kevin O'Connell. We know all the malign, on Kirk Cousins here, but they're 3-1. And you look at this game, they start out with a touchdown pass to Alexander Madison, the backup running back, making it 7-0. But the Saints did answer back. Andy Dalton actually looking all right for the Saints, filling in for Jameis Winston. Yeah. 4-yard touchdown pass to rookie wide receiver Chris Olave. The Vikings answered back 28 yards out from Greg Joseph and a 36-yarder as time expired in the second quarter to make it 13-7. Extend that lead to 16-7. Greg Joseph from 24 out. But kind of, here we go. Field goals instead of touchdowns. You thought, would that come back to bite? But the Saints backups, Alvin Kamara out. Would that matter? Not to mention Michael Thomas. Latavius Murray, fresh off the practice squad with a touchdown, 3:49 left in the third to make it 16-14 Minnesota. But yet another Greg Joseph field goal from 46 to extend it to 19-14. But Taysom Hill, a 2-yard run, 9:29 left in the fourth to make it 22-19 after a 2-point conversion to Jarvis Landry. And one thing I'm just kind of curious before you get to the rest of this game, Tony, with Taysom Hill, I mean, I want to say he runs it when he's in at quarterback 90+% of the time. Why is it so? I mean, I feel like he never gets stuffed. I mean, it's a minimum 3-4 yards. A lot of times it's 10+. Why is it so hard to stop him if he's running the ball?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's obviously it's always tough when a player like him is able to run it.
Yeah.
Just because he has threats downfield, and then all of a sudden he can just kind of take off. I mean, I guess maybe you can have just obviously contain the QB with a linebacker or something. But I mean, I don't know, dude. Obviously, he's a good runner. You can't really knock that. But yeah, I guess defenses have to work a little harder.
Because I mean, you think about other than Tim Tebow, there's never quarterbacks like this that just come in to run the ball. Like this isn't college. You know what I mean? That doesn't usually work. So I'm just amazed that it works. And Obviously, it wasn't enough for the Saints here because Justin Jefferson did answer back with a 3-yard touchdown run of his own on an end around to make it 25-22, and it would have been 26, but Greg Joseph misses the extra point. And then I could not believe the end of this game. So Saints get the ball back. It's 4th and 9. They go for 60-yard field goal to tie it. Will Lutz, he makes it. And then the Vikings drive down the field, get a 47-yard field goal from Greg Joseph. So you think the game's over, but the Saints hurry down the field and they go Will Lutz from 61. And I've never seen a field goal, Tony. I don't know about you, and I've seen some field goals over the years, but where it seemed like without a doubt, this field goal is good. We're headed to overtime. And the fact that it hits the crossbar, when you're watching it on TV, it looks like the ball's coming at you, and there's some type of side spin that sends it forward. Was that not the craziest end to a game you've ever seen?
Unbelievable. Yeah, I could not. I don't know, man. It's maybe the wind over there in England, dude. Different atmosphere.
But boy, and having to do that long flight back after losing a game like that to fall to 1-3. I mean, we always joke about the sky is falling, but I mean, it's hard to not feel that way if you're the New Orleans Saints. Is falling, Tony.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, think about it against the Vikings. I mean, we talked about Kirk Cousins, obviously, not showing up for big moments for his team. And New Orleans, I just feel like, I feel like they've had, a lot of good guys they've lost from the team, and there's been I think a big question mark at the QB position just in general. But I mean, to start the season off 1-3, to lose against Minnesota, who's now 3-1, which I think is pretty surprising.
Right.
Obviously, a really tough start for the Saints, and at this point, you have to question like what the rest of their season is going to really look like here, because it really is not, looking pretty good for them.
So is it just me? And part of this is the results of some of the other games, but I know everything, in the moment seems like, oh, this is the craziest thing ever. But is this not the craziest start to a season we've seen just in terms of these results, the comebacks, just the surprises? Every single game, I feel like there's a big surprise.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think around the league, I mean, I think there's teams that are 3-1 right now or have good records that you would have never have guessed.
I mean, and one of those, how about the Dallas Cowboys 3-1 after a 25-10 win over the Commanders yesterday? Cooper Rush, first quarterback in franchise history to win his first 4 starts. I mean, is this not unbelievable? And also, is he getting this? Is this the same type of situation that we saw with Dak Prescott and Tony Romo? I know it seems crazy and all the money that Dak's do, but you keep winning games. I mean, how do you argue with those results? A big game against the Rams next week. Dak will try to give it a go, but I mean, 4-0 for Cooper Rush is 4-0. I mean, pretty impressive stuff, no?
I know, and I think there's been so many times where Dak, even when he was hurt, before he broke his ankle, right?
Yes, a couple years
ago. There was even a question then, like if he returns because he wasn't really doing well, if they're going to start him and stuff. And Jerry Jones kind of stood behind him. But I don't know if Cooper Rush is doing well. Like, you think he's going to stand behind him again and be like, yeah, we're putting him in? Like,
so I just think like right now, I mean, they're 100% committed to Dak, and he's going to try to give it a go for the Rams. Yeah. But I think 3-1, they want Dak to be healthy for the stretch run. I think they're going to give him another week, but I really think there will be some trepidation if next week against the Rams, the Cowboys not only win, but let's say Cooper Rush, 3 touchdowns, 350 yards. I really think a question has to be asked. But you don't want to destroy the locker room either. I mean, do you think there's any scenario where, they keep going with Rush if he keeps winning? Because that's what Dak did that year, which ended up being Tony Romo's last season of his career.
Yeah, I could see Cooper Rush sticking around.
I mean, unbelievable.
I know, it really is. Dude, how do you feel about the whole London thing, by the way?
So I think
it's just bogus.
London is the equivalent of Thursday Night Football. I love Thursday Night Football because it gives us something to watch, but it just, with the injuries and it doesn't make sense. But it's all about money, of course. Yeah. So at the end of the day, taking away a home game, the only good part about it is just that viewing audience at 9:30 Eastern time. Obviously, you're getting nothing on the West Coast. How many people are waking up for 6:30?
No one.
But I think that's, for a viewing audience, it's great. But for logistics for the teams, it makes no sense. And it's all about the league being greedy, trying to make it so international. One day
right.
there'll be a London Super Bowl, London franchise. But if we're really talking about what's fair to the teams, what's right for the players,
Yeah.
Games in London, games in Germany, which we'll see later this season, it doesn't make sense. What do you think?
Sense at all? I think it is. I think it's rather stupid. I think the NFL is trying to reach out to, I guess, start an international league, maybe eventually down the road, whatever. But I do think, yeah, logistically for teams, it's tough. I mean, we're talking about it all week how, like, I think New Orleans got there on like Tuesday or something, right? Minnesota didn't get there till like Thursday or Friday, and it's like that's a fucking pain in the ass, dude. Especially if you're, for teams like Minnesota that are getting there on Friday, like big time adjustment, right, to the time zone over there. And then it's like, the early game too. It was 9:30 here. What time is it for them over there?
I think it's 5:30.
5:30.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not.
It's just
Crazy
weird though.
weird.
And
Yeah,
it's
it is
just
weird.
like
Why?
If they
Why
want
are
a
they doing
football
that,
league,
dude? Yeah,
London,
just do it.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I just think it's crazy.
And you look at the fans there too. I mean, it's not like people. I mean, I guess they're fans of the league of players.
Yeah, and they just get the apparel. They're not.
Yeah.
I want to see. I know actually how
dude.
many are actual fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like people going to Yankee games. You know?
I feel like this is something you would get Ralph for. You see the boys from Ted Lasso were in the crowd.
Yeah. That's kind of funny.
It's just like, I mean, come on, it's a football game. It's not a TV series. I am, we talk about surprises. How about the Seahawks not only putting up 48 points, being 2-2, the start that Geno Smith is off to, 3 total touchdowns, 2 in the air, 1 on the ground. More surprised about that or the amount of points that the Detroit Lions have put up? They lose by 3 here, 48-45. They lead the league in scoring, but they're 1-3. Bigger surprise about that or the fact that the Seahawks have won 2 out of their first 4 games with Geno Smith at quarterback?
I think it's the Geno Smith. Definitely. That's surprising. Way more surprising.
Do you feel bad for Dan Campbell?
I feel bad for Jared Goff.
I mean, he's balling, right? I mean, 378, 4 scores.
Teams 1-3 though.
Teams 1-3, but you feel like there is some hope. And they play at New England, and it's just funny. You see them put all these points. Could you see a Goff next week? Belichick scheming up the defense, 3 interceptions.
Yeah. I'm sure they're watching tape on this game right now, Brian.
Of the next 4 games, so I mentioned, the Seahawks starting out 2-2. How many do they win? And they play Saints, Cardinals, Chargers, Giants. Saints and Chargers on the road.
Saints and Chargers on the road. Cardinals, Saints. I say they go 2-2 the next 4 games.
I mean, what a job by Pete Carroll.
Yeah. Pete Carroll, he's fired up.
You think he's laid off the hashish or he's gone to more of the hashish?
No, yeah, he's found a nice happy medium,
All about moderation.
Yeah.
Tony. All about moderation. Were you stunned that the Ravens blew a 20-3 lead, don't kick the field goal late, lose to the Bills?
Yes, that is huge surprise for me. I feel like the Ravens had it, dude.
And they did it against Miami too.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
What do you think it is though? Is it poor coaching? Is it teams are kind of figuring out Lamar late in the game?
I think it has to be more on poor coaching because when you look at Lamar, I mean, he's still a playmaker. He still makes those big plays. He has great drives. Like the talent's there for him. You just gotta give him the ball in the right position, really.
Yeah. So it's just gonna be interesting to see how they rebound from this. So they're 2-2. Buffalo goes to 3-1. We see the Chargers get off the schneid there, 34-24 over the Texans. So Herbert looks okay. Chargers are 2-2. So kind of back into, trying to gear up to get into the playoff picture. Baker Mayfield and the Panthers fall to 1-3.
Not good.
Cardinals somehow 2-2, even though they don't look great. And it was funny after the game. I don't know if you saw this, but they asked Baker, do you feel like the team's putting you in the best position to win? And he literally goes, yeah, I'm not falling for that.
Wait, really? That's hilarious.
Is it time for Sam Darnold in Carolina?
I guess.
I mean, right? Why not at this point? You picked up that 5th-year option. So the Cardinals staying alive here, and who knows, maybe when Hopkins comes back, they'll be able to put something up, but we'll see. Only undefeated team in the league, the Eagles, 29-21 after falling behind early, 14-0.
Crazy.
Are you
dude.
impressed with the Eagles here, 4-0?
Incredibly impressed here. I mean, you mentioned, they fell behind early. Jacksonville, it seemed like Trevor Lawrence here was really coming to his own and was to do some damage throughout the league. But I mean, just like I feel like the pocket around him collapsing when he was getting sacked, I feel like the whole game collapsed for the Jacksonville and for Philly to come back. Gritty win. You'll have to see that 4-0.
But only one game lead in that division. So it might come down to the final day, which, you didn't think that division would be competitive, but you think about the Giants 3-1 as well. So the only team out of it is the Commanders. Any thoughts on the Raiders? 32-23 over the Broncos. The Raiders.
I mean, I guess that's good, Russell Wilson, I think, is kind of washed.
And do you think it's more about his physical capabilities or just about his mindset and how others receive him?
Russell Wilson?
Yeah, like why it's not working.
I think a little bit of both. From what I've heard, I mean, he's not exactly, the most popular guy in the locker room. And on top of that, yeah, he's lost a step or two. I think, his even like his ability to make quick decisions has gone down a little bit. So, I mean, I think all in all, I think he's washed, dude. It's a wash.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah. I mean, and they just gave him $260 million. So God. I don't think he's going away anytime soon. More surprised that the Falcons are 2-2 or the Colts are 1-2-1.
I guess the Falcons being 2-2.
I mean, you've always been a big Mariota guy.
Yeah, dude. So, I expect maybe a little more out of him.
Only 7 out of 19 for $139, 1 interception, but they ran for 202 yards. And the Browns, didn't look bad, but, Brissett, 21-35, interception. They were on the 1 yard line, had to settle for a field goal, some penalties, so maybe some lack of discipline there. But I mean, a lot of people expected them to be, the season in the tank by the time Deshaun Watson comes back. And I know we have a long time left. There's still 8 games left, but if they hover around 500, maybe there's a shot there to go to the postseason. I just think he's going to need a little time to kind of get acclimated before.
Is it really week 12 is when he comes
13,
back? 13,
because they have the bye week 12. Actually, so it's 11 games with 7 left. Yeah. So they're not going to get much out of him. And I mentioned the Colts, 24-17, they go down to Tennessee. And I have to say, Derrick Henry looked like the old Derrick Henry here. 22 carries, 114 yards and a score. Tannehill, no turnovers, only throws for $137, but they get 2 touchdowns. The Colts, fall behind early. I think it was 20-3 at one point. They end up going into halftime 24-10. Try to rally, get a third quarter touchdown, but not enough. And if you look at the numbers, Matt Ryan, 356, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So doing the job through the air, even though the quarterback rating was only 39.8. But I think the whole thing here is slow starts and they cannot get the running game going. Jonathan Taylor, 20 carries, 42 yards. That's 2.1 yards per carry. I guess there's some problems with the offensive line.
Is that what it is? Just can't,
I mean, he was running all over the field. I mean, if you're getting 2 yards a carry and you're Tennessee, it's not the best defense in the league. I think that's an embarrassment.
Yeah, that's tough too. He's got to kind of hype it up here.
And then the last game of the night here, the Tampa Bay Bucks fall to the Kansas City Chiefs 41-31. The divorce is happening. I mean, hard to argue that the divorce isn't happening. I know you look at the final stat line, 39-52, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions for Brady, 2 to Mike Evans, 1 to Leonard Fournette. But 2-2 is 2-2. Brady's pissed. And the fact here that, they started out, I want to say it was 17-3 Chiefs to start the game, and they could not stop them on defense. That defense just does not look the same. And I know, they stepped it up in the second half, outscoring the Chiefs 14-13. So at least the defense somewhat stopped them. But is it a bigger story here about what a master of the game Patrick Mahomes is? You saw him underhand throw a touchdown and do the direct snap play to Noah Gray. And just the fact that he's doing all this without Tyreek Hill. So we've seen, the Packers struggle without Devontae Adams, but it seems like Mahomes isn't missing a beat here. Is it more of a story of what he's doing or more of the fact that the Bucs seem like they can't get out of their own way and they're only 2-2 here?
Honestly, I guess could be just because Mahomes is a little bit more expected to be doing these sorts of things at this point. I guess Tampa Bay is a little bit more of the surprise in terms of them being 2-2. But I mean, hey, I mean, like you mentioned, Tom Brady, I mean, 39 and 52, throwing for 385. That's pretty classic Tom Brady, I feel. So, not much change there in terms of him, but yeah, it's the rest of the team. And they had no running game as well. White had 3 carries for 6 yards. Fournette had 3 carries for -3 yards. So I mean, their rushing wasn't really, I guess, the rushing game wasn't going on. So obviously, it was pretty easy for the Chiefs defense to kind of, do what they can to limit what their receivers could do on Tampa Bay. And yeah, Kansas City, I mean, Mahomes was making some crazy plays. I mean, and it's just like it's not even that he makes crazy plays. It's just that he makes his crazy play and then somehow they gain like 5-6 yards on this.
Yeah.
Like every time it works, like it just happens.
Just running around, tossing it over his head.
Like unbelievable.
And how about, especially in the first half, every single time he goes to Travis Kelce, he just can catch it. He's open.
Yeah.
Like it seems like there's no stopping Travis Kelce.
And
he's getting older.
It's like middle of the field, too. Like middle of the field, wide open.
Yeah.
Like what is going on here?
So I mean, you're always impressed with Kansas City, but I really thought there would be more struggles here. Without Tyreek Hill, but he's just spreading the ball around. We saw Juju Smith-Schuster 5 catches, and I'm sure he'll get his guys more involved. Because other than Kelce, I mean, the leading receiver was Valdez-Scantling with 63 yards. But I'm just impressed with this Chiefs team, and I think they look poised to go back to a Super Bowl. It'd be their third in four years, which would be impressive. As far as the Bucs, coming up a very light schedule next 3 weeks. Falcons, Steelers, Panthers. Are you unequivocally, Tony, expecting 3-0 there?
Yeah, easily.
Do they lose next or the separation next? What do you think? What comes first? A Bucs loss or the separation?
I think publicly the Bucs lost.
So you think the separation has already happened?
I mean, it's possible if it's happening.
Separate homes. I mean,
are they?
Yeah.
Come on.
She was in Miami by herself. He was.
I got a feeling she wasn't by herself, Brian.
Could you elaborate there? Is that something Prefer would like to speak about? I mean, because I feel like he's big on that type of stuff.
He definitely is on it, but I mean, Prefer has been a little MIA since his Hey Guys.
I have a feeling why.
He doesn't really talk football that much, right?
But he's more. I guess he's more storylines. You know what I mean?
He's true.
Drama. He's not on the field.
He reads the headlines.
But hey, I mean, it's a good time for New York football here. Both teams in contention in October. When was the last time we said that? So we do have one more game tonight. And before we get to picking that and dissecting it, just wanted to give an update on the picks here. So we got 3 days left in the Major League Baseball season. So you've made up some ground here. I think you were 4-0 on Thursday.
Let's go.
So I am 35, 27 and 1. You are 30 and 33. So some big nights here. We could be looking at, you coming back. I mean, it would be quite the collapse on my part, but we'll give you a shot here. So like I said, one more game. We do have the Los Angeles Rams traveling to Santa Clara to face the Niners here. So Niners at home, 1.5 point favorites here. And, obviously Trey Lance out for the season. Jimmy G back in. You saw the offense struggle last week in Denver. And the Rams, after that embarrassing loss on opening night to Buffalo, have beaten the Falcons and Cardinals in back-to-back weeks. Matt Stafford struggles with the interception so far, but many people expect him to rebound. Cooper Kupp looking like Cooper Kupp. So what do you want to do here? 1.5 points. You could have plus 1.5 with the Rams, minus 1.5 with the Niners at home. What are you thinking here?
I would say minus 1.5 with the Niners at home.
Wow. What type
Jimmy
of? I mean, is it a lot of running, limited throws with Jimmy G, or do you think he gets it done through the air?
I think Jimmy G gets done through the air. I think he's gonna kind of find his zone here tonight, and I think the 49ers defense come up pretty big in terms of stopping the LA Rams here. And I think Jimmy G, I don't know, maybe throws for like maybe 250, 235, maybe one bad interception of a tip ball, not his fault. Does not step out of the end zone here. Kind of gets into his own rhythm here, able to drive down the field pretty successfully. And I think, maybe a little slow start, first quarter, not much going on. in terms of San Fran's offense. But then, like I mentioned, third quarter comes along, Jimmy G rolling, outscoring the Rams in the second half. I'm gonna say 21-7, and they win the game. I'll say, I don't know, 34-28.
Wow.
Let's
All right.
go.
So with that being said, you're basically telling our audience hammer the over, set at 42.5.
Absolutely, dude.
So I love that you went with the Niners
Jimmy
here,
G,
'cause
man.
I love the Rams. I know Jimmy G, man, better for the Niners.
You
this
said
and
it.
that.
Jimmy G, man.
I did say it. But I don't know, man. That game against Denver last week I thought was embarrassing. And I just really like what the Rams do offensively. I know, there's some concerns about Stafford with the elbow, and he has turned the ball over with 5 interceptions in his first 3 games.
That's tough, dude.
But I don't know, man. I just feel like he that rhythm he has with Cooper Kupp, I think it's going to be tough for the Niners to stop. And I just don't know, offensively what the Niners are going to be able to do. I think Elijah Mitchell, that was a huge loss. And I just think that, the Rams will get pressure on Garoppolo. I think he's going to be sacked 9 times. And I want to say the Rams here, virtue of 3 touchdown passes to Cooper Kupp, Stafford, 325 yards, will win this game 24-10 as the San Francisco 49ers fall to 1-3.
Wow.
The defending Super Bowl champs to 3-1. Zach Wilson. I mean, I couldn't call him that yesterday. Couldn't call him that.
You could not, dude.
Does he have a big game next week? Like a statistic, because I know it's about wins and losses, but just a statistically pleasing game that I'm going to be excited about.
I think he'll have like a good game through the air in terms of yardage, but I think he's gonna have 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be like,
and is it because he tries to be the hero?
yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So be interesting to see, how that game plays out with the Miami Dolphins, and the Jets will be looking for their first division win since 2019. So been a little while since they won in the division, but definitely have a good shot here. So that's what we got for football here. I know you've been waiting to talk about this, so let's go to the world of Major League Baseball.
2-2, he got him swinging. The back-to-back strikeouts for Robbie Ray. There's damage right there. Shohei, way, Cy Young. Wow. Where did that land? Stuck to Chapman, who leaps up and grabs it.
Story spins and fires. Out at first.
There it goes. See ya. Home run, Aaron Judge.
All right, dude. So we had a pretty crazy weekend, I suppose, in MLB. As we're starting off our baseball segment here, we will start off with the Mets, who, unfortunately, to my demise and to Brian's happiness, and even Michael's happiness, I think at this point, they got swept by the Braves here in Atlanta, I should say. The first game was Friday, right? It was a 5-2 loss. And I mean, obviously, this is a huge series in terms of who's going to win the NL East here. And so, both managers for the Mets and the Braves, so Buck and Schnicker, both kind of, as Buffer, I knew Buffer was waiting in the wings here. Buffer, Mets took it on the chin. Life moves on. That's correct. I mean, obviously, both these teams clinched playoff berths, right? So this is really just for the win of the division and to kind of, not have to do the wild card series. And of course, I mean, it's just for, I guess who feels better in terms of, going into the World Series at this point. But like I mentioned, both teams putting their best starters up. The Mets even brought up Alvarez too for a little extra punch at DH. But nonetheless, so this game starts and you have DeGrom, pitching your first game, and you're supposed to be feeling pretty good about it. And you did feel pretty good about it, deservingly so. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball, regardless of his poor start against Oakland before this series started. But his final line was 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 11 Ks. I believe it was second inning. He gave up 2 back-to-back home runs, yes, to Austin Riley and Matt Olson, back-to-back, which is obviously not what you want exactly. And, the Mets had some really good early opportunities. Guillorme was able to get an RBI single. They were taking advantage of Rosario actually in the outfield, who I think lost a fly ball in the lights, and then another play tried to slide to make a play, but he totally bobbled the ball. Sort of these semi-routine plays by Rosario was giving the Mets runners on base here, and there was a few times where I think it was runners on first and second, and I think Alvarez his first at bat, or maybe it was a second at bat in the second inning, grounds out, double play, and situations like that really kind of stopped any type of momentum the Mets were having on offense. But nonetheless, I mean, they're up 1-0 early. DeGrom gives up those back-to-back homers in the second, which Austin Riley and Matt Olson are probably two guys you want to shy away from in terms of leaving balls over the middle of the plate. I believe, I think the Olson home run was a fastball, like 100-mile-an-hour fastball. It was just over the middle of the plate. DeGrom knew right away off the bat. And then, obviously on Atlanta's mound here, Max Fried was basically dealing. He'd have a crazy high strikeout rate. He was giving up a couple of hits. His final line was 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 3 Ks. And it was pretty interesting. It was the 5th inning in the dugout where, you saw Max Fried just kind of it seemed like he was thrown up in the dugout, to be honest. Just he was ill, didn't return to the game. So you have a bullpen game for the Braves here. McHugh comes in for Fried, and then Iglesias, and then Minter, and then Jansen, to close the game. And you would think, like, hey, man, I mean, their bullpen is good, I guess. They have some good guys. But, I mean, you tell me you cannot take advantage of the fact that Max Fried is leaving the game in the 5th inning? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that you guys could not have any offense here, And of course, obviously, you look at Jacob deGrom. I think he already reached 100 strikeouts in like 63 innings pitched, whatever it was. So, he has good stuff. 6 innings, 3 earned runs is not a horrible line for anyone. For DeGrom, it is kind of bad. But regardless, like, you just got to do better than that. You got to do like way better than that on offense.
But I'm just curious your thoughts, Tony. Like, we've seen with DeGrom recently, I don't know, I might be a little off here, but maybe the last 3 or 4 starts, like you said, being bad for DeGrom, giving up more runs than usual. I mean, he hasn't pitched that many innings this year. He seemed to have been in a groove. Do you have any kind of thought as to, I mean, other than a tough opponent, but we saw him struggle against Colorado. I mean, why is this happening, you think? 3 home runs. I mean, that's a ton for him. I mean, he gives 3 home runs in a month.
I know.
Is it location?
I mean, it seems like he's leaving balls over the middle of the plate.
Yeah.
We saw him kind of against Oakland. It was tough for him to find his slider. It just didn't have as much movement to it as normal. So I would expect that at this point it is somewhat of a mechanical issue. I don't know if that's because he's feeling discomfort in any way or form. But I would think something mechanically is wrong at this point because, like I was saying, slider not having as much movement, location is normally something mechanical. I mean, there's no reason he should be in his own head. And I think we've seen since he started, I mean, yeah, he's had bad starts. Yeah, he's gotten angry, but he's always just kind of like sucked it up and it's just like, all right, like next batter up. He's always had a great attitude, even through the injuries as well, So, which is good. I think it's something that's serviceable, something that's coachable, something that he can work on. And of course, I feel like if there's any, minor, slight, mechanical issue or flaw in a pitcher, if there's one, lineup that's going to really accentuate it, it's going to be the Braves lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, they were hopping on these pitches. It was, they obviously we know they're a great lineup, but I mean, regardless, I mean, 3 earned runs for him. The Mets going through the Braves bullpen. I don't think there's really any excuse why, Nimmo was 1 for 4, Alonso 1 for 4, Lindor 0 for 4, Kana 0 for 3. McNeil continues to hit well, 2 for 4. Escobar as well continues to hit well after, having a great September. He was 2 for 3. Alvarez was in there for DH. He was 0 for 4. And we've seen, guys get brought up from the minors to be put at DH and to be struggling because that's where you're going to struggle.
Well,
I feel.
And I just think too, I mean, I think it's just a terrible management decision to bring up Alvarez at this point. They should have brought him up at least a month ago, if not 2 months
I
ago,
know.
because he needed time to acclimate. And then in this series, he could have had a big moment and stepped up. But now he's getting used to being in the major leagues, facing tough pitching, and it's just like I feel like you're really setting him up to fail.
Yeah, no, basically, it is definitely is poor management. I mean, I've mentioned, if there's one thing that's not going to work for a player who comes up to the league, it's probably going to be his at bats.
Yeah.
He's facing different pitchers, a totally different type of pitcher in the majors, and one thing that would work for him is probably his defense, is his field work,
Right.
I mean, Alvarez is a phenomenal catcher, like he would probably be great behind the plate. But obviously, they put him up at DH, and it's going to be hard for him to gain any type of momentum. It's going to be hard for him to have a big, I mean, yeah, maybe like Brett, when he came up, his first at bat was a home run. Maybe you'll get that, maybe. But then look at, the rest is going to be time to adjust to these pitchers. You're versing some of the best pitchers in the league with the Atlanta Braves here, so you're getting some tough looks at the plate. And I don't think that, you kind of put him in a really tough position of, okay, you've been great in the minors. We need you to be great in the majors right now.
Right.
That puts him in a really tough position. And I think, so far, I'm not knocking him at all, because, we all understand that there will be this type of like Brian likes to say, growing pains here. But yeah, I mean, I think with some time, maybe against Washington, if he's still up here at DH, he'll have some good at bats. But other than that, bottom of the lineup was nothing great. Guillaume was 1 for 2. Nake went 0 for 1 here. A couple walks. Vientos, same deal when he came in the pinch hit for Guillaume. Tough, dude. Nito 1 for 3. He had the RBI, right? But I mean, like, geez, dude. I mean, there was no other type of offense. You scored in the second inning, and then you didn't score again until the 8th inning with that Nito home run.
Yeah.
I mean the entire game. That's most of Max Fried's start. That's most of the bullpen as well. You got to get some better looks here. I mean, I understand maybe it was nerves. First game of the series. You're in Atlanta. At this point we were a game up. So
Right.
it's obviously it's like fucking go time for the Mets here. So I could see why maybe on Friday they were a little nervous.
Right.
Sure, dude. But that doesn't really explain for the rest of the weekend. Saturday, it really wasn't much different. The rest of the weekend really wasn't much different. Saturday, they lost the game 4-2. Again, scoring 2 runs. You're not going to win most games scoring 2 runs. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, again, I mean, you can point signs to DeGrom didn't do great. Scherzer didn't do great as well. Scherzer probably had one of his worst starts, I feel like, this season. 5 2/3, 9 hits, 4 earned runs.
I mean, I think that was the biggest surprise of the weekend.
Yeah,
in a game you need to have, you expected Max Scherzer to pitch a complete game.
Yeah, especially for Scherzer. I mean, he's talk about someone who has the right mental attitude to come into a game like this and just be absolutely lights out, just shaving his way through the lineup. I mean, 5 2/3, his pitch count was at 101. He was all over the place. Of course, you had some batters giving him some tough at bats, fouling off a lot of his fastballs and stuff like that, staying alive. But regardless, it went up his pitch count. He was giving up hits. It's crazy to see that, 5 2/3, 101 pitches, no walks, Brian. So obviously location wasn't a huge issue in terms of him walking people. It was the Atlanta lineup just giving him really tough at bats, finding ways to hit his ball. Some of these balls that were hit, he wasn't throwing strikes,
No.
but these batters were hitting.
I mean,
it's crazy.
Honestly, I want to say in the past at least 10 years, just in terms of depth, talent, power, contact, and the fact too that the majority of it is younger players, I've never seen a mix like this ever from any team.
I know. It's crazy.
Who's old? I mean, Darno.
No
Darno's the old guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
It really is. And then, in terms of the Mets, after Scherzer came out, you had Lugo, Ottavino, Peterson, Smith, coming out of the bullpen, no earned runs.
Yeah.
They were pitching great, actually. Peterson looked good. He got 2 outs. Ottavino went for an inning, only gave up a hit, got the K, finished the inning. Same thing with Drew Smith, honestly. He got the out he needed to with a strikeout as well. They were looking really good, the bullpen. So you're telling me Like, yeah, Scherzer gave 4 runs. You couldn't score for the rest of the game. You couldn't help him out at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's the same deal. I mean, yeah, top of the lineup did okay. Nimmo went 2 for 4. He set the table a little bit in terms of leading off. Alonso was 1 for 3 with the walk. He got on base. He got brought in. So did Nimmo as well. Lindor 2 for 4. McNeil 2 for 4. Again, continuing. McNeil is just a great hitter. Escobar had a tough game, 0 for 4. Vogelbach at DH was 1 for 2. Alvarez came in to pinch hit as DH. He was 0 for 2. And then bottom of the lineup, Kana, Naquin, 0 for 4. Nito, 0 for 3. Getting no production again from the bottom of the lineup. And it's just so tough, dude. I mean, 0 for 4 is just unacceptable at this point.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
And I mean, I'm sure, if you had a healthy Starling Marte in that lineup, I'm sure that would help. But at the same time, I've talked about the lineup. I mean, it's definitely nowhere near one of the better lineups in the league, but it's still, you should be able to produce more than what you're getting in these type of situations, because against a big team, backs against the wall, you have to come up with something better than this.
I know. And understand, like Kyle Wright was pitching, who's also, a great pitcher too.
20-game winner in the majors, right?
Yeah. He's first in the majors, 21-5 record, a 3.19 ERA, right? So obviously, rides the coattails a lot of the lineup.
Yeah, but I mean, 3.19 these days is
great.
Like
it's
an
good.
old 2-2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's still good. He went 5 innings, 7 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 Ks, 1 walk. So I think he just looked really hittable, honestly, when he was pitching. But we didn't get 7 hits. Obviously, we got hits, but we just did not bring people in. And again, after the 5th inning, you have 4 people coming out of the bullpen. Iglesias and Jansen going back to back. You had Chavez and Lee also coming right after, right? And I mean, I just feel like the probability of you guys hitting these pitchers, it should be pretty high.
Right.
But you're not. You made runners in scoring position 6 times out of 7 hits.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? And you're 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Escobar was 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. McNeil was doing good one, 2 for 2. Everyone else was 0 for 1.
And I mean, if you had to put some type of reasoning towards that, I mean, do you think it's just this moment, like these guys feel like it's too big for them and they're not used to it with this much of pressure? It's been a lot of good fields around the Mets, but they haven't had really a situation this year where they've needed to win. They had to win. And do you think it's just because they're not used to being in this situation?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like they've been feeling the pressure for a while now, but I think what it is, I think the top of the lineup feels the most pressure to perform. Because, when you look at it, I mean, this weekend, it was, top of the lineup like on Saturday, didn't do terrible. Like I mentioned, Nimmo was 2 for 4. Lindor was 2 for 4. McNeil 2 for 4. Out of your first 4 batters, I mean, that's not bad. And then it's just the rest of the lineup that does nothing,
What do you think about Buffer blaming Brandon Nimmo not setting the table and striking out too much?
I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like Saturday he set the table quite nicely, and he actually didn't strike out at all. I do expect a little bit more from him, on Friday, on Sunday too. I mean, it wasn't great, but I mean, I wouldn't. You can't just blame Nimmo, I mean, I feel like it was.
Yeah, no, other people could have stepped up, but if it was me, Tony, and I don't know what you think or Buffer thinks, I would lead off either Jeff McNeil or Ardo Escobar, have them go 1 and 2, and then follow that up with Lindor and Alonso. Because Nimmo, there's no reason he needs to be at the top of the lineup. No,
there really isn't, and he is, somewhat inconsistent.
Yeah,
and it's not like I feel like if anyone's gonna get like a leadoff home run, it would be probably McNeil,
right? McNeil's had a great year. I mean, 326. That's nothing to downplay.
I know, nothing at all. But anyway, the Mets end up losing that, 4-2. And then on Sunday, the Sunday night 7:00 game. Again, same deal here. Like basically the same deal. Braves beat the Mets 5-3 to kind of complete the sweep here in Atlanta. And now they have a two-game lead now in the NL East. And it was, Chris Bassett just absolutely dropped the ball here. He didn't last 3 innings. He lasted 2 innings, 2 2/3, 3 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks. when it's a case.
And I'm curious what you think. I'm trying to think. First pitcher out of the pen, it was
May. For
May.
us, yeah.
And I know this sounds crazy, third inning, but the magnitude of this game, I was watching it. I watched from the third inning on when he got into trouble there. I was thinking, I know it's against the grain, but to put in Diaz in that situation because it was a big spot in the game. I mean, they didn't come back from that point. I mean, did you have any thoughts like just May wasn't the guy there? Or, I mean, what did you think?
I was a little, I suppose, like surprised that it was May.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about it, I mean, who else is it going to be? You use Adelino the day before, use Lugo the day before as well. You're not going to throw Rodriguez in there, and Diaz. It's an interesting thought, but I mean, what happens when it's like the ninth inning and you need someone to close out the game?
I've always thought, because a lot of times, save this guy, and we saw Buck get into trouble with this with the Orioles, many years ago, saving Zach Britton, and then he never puts him in when he was the best reliever in baseball. And teams hesitate to do this. They like their stats and the players like their saves for contracts. But at the end of the day, like what you said, what happens if they're going to close the situation out? Clearly, we saw in this situation, there was no game to close out. So it's like you kind of worry about that when the time comes. It almost like reminds me of football when they started probably 5 to 10 years ago, where you're down 10, instead of trying to take all that time off the clock and score the touchdown and be only down 3, then you got to get the onside kick. You just kick the field goal because you need 2 scores anyway. I just feel like when it's do or die, you have to make these games, manage them like postseason games, and to go to Trevor May with runners on it. I know he was struggling. I think you could argue you're better off leaving Bassett in there.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean,
and that double just went down the line too, which was tough.
So tough, dude. But I don't think Trevor May was a wrong decision. I don't know, because I mean, again, when you think about it, like, I don't know if it did work. Like, what if you were in that situation where it's now the ninth inning and you need someone to close? You need someone to go like 3 up, 3 down.
I think I would have just pushed out of big game. Need to win it. Because think about it, it changes the whole situation here. Because now instead of you have to win all your games and the Braves have to lose all your games, it would almost be like the exact opposite situation.
Right.
So I just think last night was everything, because now, I mean, there's really, it's a hope and a prayer at this point.
Yeah, you're relying on the Braves now to kind of lose,
because that's the only way, right? They have to get swept, and the Mets have to win all their games. Yeah. But the Braves have 3 games, the Mets have 4. They each have 3.
They each have 3.
Oh, right. Because okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, that would be something if that ends up happening. But you already used all your best pitchers too. And I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. And how about Kenley Jansen? 40 saves for the Braves.
It's kind of outrageous, even when you look at his the amount of saves he had last season too for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
It was pretty high. Like, he was a good closer, I guess, in terms of that. So, who would have thought?
3.43 ERA, though. That actually is second highest of his career. So I guess when he blows it, he blows it, but when he doesn't, he doesn't.
Right.
So, and obviously, you want to look on the positive side of things here. I mean, you look at Befur's comments, he's kind of singing the blues, but more than likely, just looking at reality here, it looks like the Mets will indeed have to play a wild card series against the Padres, and that they're able to win that, they would match up with the Dodgers. So how, if you were the manager here, I mean, how would you approach the rest of these last 3 games here, knowing that that's more than likely the outcome?
Like, in terms of just like
who's pitching, the bullpen, all of that.
I mean, I think you can pitch, the status quo of the rotation. I mean, you do Carrasco, Walker, and then maybe the third game of the series have like some type of bullpen game. Maybe Trevor Williams could start off the game, and you can kind of work your bullpen around for the third game. But I mean, when, if I was Buck, if I'm in the clubhouse, I'm in the locker room here, I'm saying how much confidence I have in Walker and Carrasco and our pitching against the Nationals. But the way we're gonna win this game is if we score. I mean, that's the bottom line. Like, we need at least 5 runs every game here for the next 3 games. Like that's what's gonna win.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care if Walker comes out here and he gives up 3 earned runs over 6 innings. We have to score 5. Like shit like that will happen. I just think there's no excuse. I mean, these past 3 games, what do you score? You scored 6 runs, 7 runs over 3 games. That's not great.
Yeah.
Like the offense has to step up. Like that's what I'm looking for.
But I just, and I know you never, want to wave the white flag, but I would just look at, I mean, there's no way that I feel like the Braves are going to get swept. So I
No.
don't know. If it was me, I would really kind of, especially bullpen, really have these guys rested. So you think about your top guys. You got a game on Friday. I would pitch them each once and then have them everybody be well rested. And then you got to think about how you're going to go about this series. Of course, Padres got some tough pitchers, with Musgrove, with Darvish. I'm kind of curious to think. I mean, if you look at the way they've lined things up and the general sentiment, it's been DeGrom 1, Scherzer 2. Would you keep it that way, or would you have Scherzer 1, DeGrom 2?
I'll keep it that way.
Keep it that way, and then definitely Bassett on the third game, or depends on the situation.
Yeah, I would still keep status quo at this point.
Like short as least as you can imagine. Obviously, if it's like a do or die game or whatever the case may be.
Definitely.
How do you feel about the way Major League Baseball does it? How they'll have at least we'll see actually how the last 3 games go, but good amount, maybe at least 5 or so wins more than the Cardinals, but yet the Cardinals, will be the 4 seed, or be the 3 seed. They'll be the 4 seed. Do you think it's time to switch that, or you think that you don't want to do that because then that takes away the importance of winning the division?
Yeah, it does. I like
keeping it that way, even though it's unfortunate because obviously you would think with that amount of wins they deserve
right.
that. So that being said, I mean, how do you just overall? I mean, obviously it's just it's crushing getting swept like that. But how do you what's your general feeling here? Moving forward, like for this wild card series, most likely against the Padres.
I mean, I think that it's not going to be anything easy, to be honest. I mean, the Padres, although they've had such a lackluster year, and there's been huge disappointments, and some of their biggest players, and of course, the Tatis thing going on. I still think given the opportunity, they could hit really well. They could pitch really well. I don't think anything is a given with them, and of course, it's wild cards, postseason baseball. So we've seen how anything will happen. So, you have to come in here not really expecting a win, I mean, you guys have to really earn it is what it is. So, I wouldn't take them for granted. I wouldn't take the fact that you've had a better season, that have better record than them. Because all of a sudden you can find yourself like, losing game 1 and then you're in a tough spot.
Right. Right.
So
just got to set yourself up, best foot forward. And the one thing I would feel good about is, you think about DeGrom's last couple outings, he's due to kind of really have that vintage, moment. And he hasn't had a chance for that moment because the Mets haven't been in the playoffs. So you would think that type of spotlight would bring the best out of him.
Of course, not to mention, I mean, this weekend, our bullpen pitched pretty well against the Braves.
Right.
So, I mean, the bullpen pitched was surprisingly good to me, which is great because, I mean, having great bullpens going into the postseason is exactly what you need. And like you mentioned, you would expect Scherzer, DeGrom, to kind of have more of their vintage starts coming in here. Like you mentioned, law of averages, they're due for the bounce back classic start. And I think, against the Padres, a team that hasn't really seen, I suppose, a lot of DeGrom and Scherzer necessarily this season, I think they can kind of take them, get them a little flat-footed here.
Yeah, so that'll be an exciting series. Best of 3. So just everything, all hands on deck. Anything can happen. So definitely will be exciting stuff for sure. And the Mets, all they need to do there, win 2 out of 3, and all this negative sentiment, obviously after this weekend, goes away. And then it's on to the Dodgers, and like I said, it's all hands on deck. So be interesting to see what happens. In regards to that. On the other side of things here, Yankees already clinched. They did lose 2 out of 3 to the Orioles this weekend. But I mean, not putting their best foot forward, starting Chichi Gonzalez yesterday. Obviously, everybody's looking for Judge, and he doesn't hit the home run. I think, there's a lot of pressure on him, but he does have 4 games left. Most likely there'll be 3. I don't think they'll play him 2 games of the doubleheader. But at this point, you really just want to position yourself to have everybody ready to go for that, playoff series. And it looks like they'll play the winner of the Guardians and the Rays. So we'll have to see what happens with that series. And Matt Carpenter rehabbing should be good to go for the division series. So I think that'll be big. They said he'll be used as a DH or pinch hitter for that division series. So obviously I can't wait for that. And it's almost annoying that they can't just start, because this would be the end of the season if the season had started on time, but to play these games now. But obviously some teams need to play. We need to see where the chips will fall. So obviously I can't wait for that, but we got to wait a little bit. I think game 1 will be on the 11th. So here we are, 8 days away from that. And we do have to finish our picks here. So with the football, I guess we could do 3 picks each. And if you want to just give me 3 winners, Tony, if you would here.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
3 in a row?
Yeah. Rattle them.
Really, dude? Let's see. I will rattle them for you.
I feel like you like that one.
Yeah, rattle them. I'll say the Mets win tonight.
All right.
Bang. Cardinals. Bang. And then I guess I'll go, just because I need to, I'll go with the Braves.
All right. So Braves. So I will go with the Yankees. I think they want to have a couple, try to get to 100 wins. You have to win 3 out of 4. Weak Texas team. Give me the Rays. Tyler Glass now, getting ready for the postseason. It'll be interesting to see if he's built up. So Yankees, Rays, and for my third one,
Dodgers.
I am gonna go with the crumbling Phillies, who need to win against the Astros here, and I think they do it. Aaron Nola. So let's go,
dude.
So I mean, we are really getting close here.
How about Houston? 104 wins, dude.
Yeah. You think about every year, the talent has gotten worse and worse.
I know,
but somehow they keep churning along. So
Dusty Baker. I would do anything for that man.
I would do anything to make sure he loses this postseason and the Yankees take out the Astros. That's what we all want. But time will tell, Tony. So very exciting time in the world of sports. Can't wait for the postseason to start. Good Monday Night Football game tonight.
Oh, yeah.
So there'll be a lot to discuss this week. But once again, we really like to thank everybody for tuning in, continuing to comment, like, and subscribe, as well as check out the archives on the YouTube page, the merch, downside3.com. I want everybody to enjoy the day, enjoy the games, and we will see you mañana.
Hey guys, Tony here from Downtime TV checking in. I want to thank all our fans out there who's been liking, subscribing, sharing our content. You guys are the best. You guys are our bloodline. You make us love what we do. Thanks again.